Well, maybe it's the glue fumes, but we're going to take all these N-scale 2x4s, bundle them up, make some lumber loads. Start by showing you a very cheap way to make scale lumber. This is actually pretty easy to do. It's 1/32 basswood sheet, and whatever length board I want to make, I just cut across the grain. Going with the trusty old razor blade. And you just cut slices off. Once that's done, you end up with roughly a bunch of 2x6s. And take each one of those and come back with your razor blade. Slice that in half, I'm going to roll with your fingers, and you end up with 2x4s. And after we get all the lumber cut, take and start grouping them together and get them all nice and flat. This is going to take a while. Oh, hang on a minute. Why is my therapist calling me? Okay, so no. The therapist talked me out of building these board by board. Instead, the strips I cut are nothing but spacers. This is what we're going to be working with. It's 1/8 by 1/4 basswood. I like using basswood because it's got a real tight grain, nice color. So far I've been happy with the results. Not only that, it's a little heavier. We all know how much a little extra weight helps N-scale flat cars. So anyways, we'll go through, show you my process. It'll be a very condensed version because these take about 1.5 to 2 hours a piece to build. So anyways, I'll start with the first step here. So first step's gonna be figuring out how big of a lumber load you need. It's a microtrain Centerbeam flat. 60 N-scale feet is just about right for it. And so happens to be what I've got these cut to. And what I do is figure out how many, if I'm doing a dimensional load, it'd be basically how many of each length of, standard length of boards you can get. Like, there's 12 feet, another 12 feet, and so on. Sometimes you gotta use those math skills to figure out exactly. We're gonna go 8 feet, another 8, and I think I'm getting off here. It's another 8, and then you're left with like another 12 foot on the end. And after that's done, I'm gonna come back with the trusty old razor saw. If I can get the damn thing to focus. I'm gonna take where each of those marks are. Try to keep that as square as I can and just gonna score it about halfway down. Yeah. You end up at just a score line. I'm going to take and do that for each one of these. Once that's done, I'm going to come back in with the hobby knife and just go through and just kind of clean out the grooves. So you have to do this again later, but after that we'll defuzz. And after you get it defuzzed, you kind of come back in. You might have to do this a couple times to really get it. Come back in and clean these out again. You end up with a nice separations between the bundles. So we go ahead and finish this up and move on to the next step. Now that we got that prepared, I'm going to take and put a little texture. I'm just going to take the razor saw, angle a little bit, and just draw it along. The Centerbeam load, you really only need to do this on the sides. Unless you're working with the top layers, and it's nice to have a little extra texture on the top. Once that's done, just kind of finger sand it. Probably do a little more to that, just showing a demonstration. Now we're going to go through and do all this for each one of these, kind of clean up the ends. Probably take and sand some more of that fuzz off the bottom. But for a Centerbeam load, you really only need it on the, like I say, you really only need it on the outsides until you get to the top, and then you want to texture the top. After we get some good texture on there, I'm going to go back and clean the slots out again. Next step, got some glue. I just squirt a little off into whatever plastic bubble pack I have. Use a piece of wire to transfer it. And here's where our scale lumber comes in. I'm just going to take and drop spacers in here. Take and cut them a little extra long. You can always go back and trim that later if I can pick one up. Okay. Model railroading is fun. And so I'm going to take and do that all the way down, kind of 8-footers, you get 2 spacers, 12s, 10s, 12s, whatever, you have 3 spacers on it. Then I'm going to finish that and show you the next step. And we got that done. Now, if I was building a load for a bulkhead, first thing I'd do is take some long pieces and run them vertical. Just attach them to one side. Come back with a little longer spacers and span both pieces so you put them together. But since we're doing a Centerbeam load, all we're going to do is spread some glue and stack that on top. Now that that's glued, I'm just going to repeat the process until I get whatever your desired stack height is. Okay, well, we're getting close here. One more thing I'm going to do. This piece is going to go up on top here. I'm going to take and texture the ends. Just drag vertical. And come back and drag it horizontal. It gives you a nice layered effect. Oh, we'll block that in and come back to the next step. And now we got the stack put together. I'm going to take the back side, pair of flush cutters, and just go through and cut all the extra spacer boards. And once that's done, I'll sand it smooth. Now if you wanted to, well, this load more represents like a Douglas Fir load, just construction grade. But I think if you wanted to do like a cedar or redwood load, it'd probably stop right at this point, or even before you glue the stacks together, and just take some alcohol and a couple drops of a nice orangish, reddish, brownish acrylic, and either give it a wash or spray it down with an airbrush. But for now, we're just doing Douglas Fir loads. Now, one other thing I do is do an N-scale banding. Really, it's a detail. It's a very time-consuming, but very good effect. I just take a good old trusty pencil, take the hobby knife, and file a good chisel point down where I want to put the banding. Just run a pencil line, and it creates a nice effect. Graphite gives it a metallic tone to it. Let's go through and do all that, and once that's done, you can take and trim the spacer boards up on the front a little bit, and you got a load. Alright, well, thanks for watching. Hope some of you enjoyed this, and thanks for getting loaded with me.